It was a dark, blustery evening on Sodor. Thomas and some of his friends were waiting for a signal to change so they could go home after a long day's work.
Perhaps one of us should tell a story to pass the time.
The other engines looked pleased with his idea. Then James spoke up.
Well, since Edward's away being mended, how about I tell one? Is it another one of those adventures we've had, except when you tell it, you replace our leading roles with yours? Oh, no. This is a story that is sure to send a chill down your boilers. A long, long time ago, there was a little blue engine who once worked on the island's railways. Not much is known or what he was like, but one thing for sure is that he was always eager to help. One night, as he pulled into a station with his last train for the day, the station master walked up to him. "Excuse me, Blue Engine, but before you head off for the night, could you please pick up a break coach that was left behind at the last station?"
Wait, so the engine's name is literally Blue Engine?
Well, I'm not really good at coming up with names on the spot, alright?
Go on then, Red Engine.
Anyway, of course, the brave engine replied. So he left his dirty goods train in a random siding and set off into the dark, misty night. But by the time the little blue engine reached the end of the line, the fog was so thick he could barely see anything. "It looks like we'll have to wait till morning for this fog to clear." "Good idea!" So his driver backed him into an old shed nearby for the night. Later that night, however, the little blue engine awoke to a strange noise coming from below the shed. "Huh? What was that?" He opened his eyes and looked down. Then he gasped in horror as he saw long fingers reaching for him through the floorboards, with yellow eyes and red pupils peeking through, staring directly at him. "Ah! Take my driver, not me!" he screamed and raced out of the shed, with the horrible engine-eating monster bursting through the shed floor and chasing after him into the foggy night. Then what happened? That's where the story ends. No one has ever heard from that little blue engine again. Why was there even a monster underneath the shed anyway? And how? I don't know. Hey, at least it's much scarier than a story about an engine who goes off an unfinished bridge for no reason. But what about the monster?
Oh, don't be silly, Percy. It's just a story from James after all.
Just then, the signal dropped, and the engines were able to make their way back to the sheds.
But what if the story is true? What if that engine-eating monster is somewhere out there right now?
Get a hold of yourself, Percy. There's no such things as monsters. Soon they all began settling in their shed berths for the night. But as Percy settled into his berth, there was a loud rattling sound. Percy jumped.
Ah! It's the engine-eating monster!
But it was only James, who had been bumping a flat car loaded with scrap nearby to give Percy a fright.
You're such a scaredy engine, Percy. Oh, for Godfrey's sake, James, put that flatbed away and go to sleep.
Honestly, that was very childish, James.
What? It's just a prank, bro.
Not funny. Didn't laugh.
Percy felt a little embarrassed for making such a fuss.
It's okay, Percy. Sometimes good imaginations give bad thoughts. Like when you thought Thomas Paxton and I had chicken pox? Yeah, like... Hey!
Later that night, Thomas awoke to a strange noise.
James, cut it out!
But James was fast asleep. The strange noise came again, which made Thomas feel a little uneasy.
If it's not James, then maybe I do have a monster under my shed. Nah, I'm as must be going crazy. There's no such things as... monsters?
Thomas knew better than to believe in one of James's stories, but he stood awake all night just to be on the safe side. He was awfully tired when he met Percy at Naverick Harbor the next morning.
Morning, Thomas! You do look tired.
Well, it was due to this weird scratching noise I heard last night. Didn't you hear it too?
No? Not after James's lame prank. Something up?
What? Oh, no. Everything's fine.
If you say so.
Now Thomas felt silly for staying up all night, but he didn't want the others to know that, especially James. Throughout the day, Thomas was very sleepy, which caused him to run behind schedule and make mistakes. His crew tried their best to keep him awake, but ended up making them run late regardless. Which made Top a pad, you guessed it, cross.
Thomas, I've been getting complaints about you slipping behind on your duties. Why have you been running late today?
Thomas was too embarrassed to say that he stood up all night because of the monster, so he made an excuse.
Sorry, sir. I couldn't get any sleep last night because of, because Gordon was snoring loudly, yeah.
Oh, I understand that very well, Thomas. Sometimes my wife does that too.
I beg your pardon?
No, nothing, dear. Regardless, you must get a good night's rest tonight, or else you'll be shunting in the yards with Diesel. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Just then, James roared by with the express.
What's the matter, Thomas? Monster's keeping you up all night?
By the end of the day, Thomas barely had enough steam and energy to make it back to Titmuss Sheds. The other engines were telling stories again, so Thomas headed straight to bed. Sometime that night, Thomas woke with a fright. The noises were back, and they seemed to be closer than before.
Who's there?
No one replied, except for the eerie sound of a...
Toby, will you stop that old engine creaking of yours? I'm trying to sleep here!
But Toby isn't even here.
What are you talking about? Of course he's... right there.
If it wasn't Toby, then who could have... The noise was getting louder and closer.
That will surely wake the others up. Yeah, it'll save me, us from the monster.
But the other engines didn't stir.
It's just outside the door. Look, there's its head. What do we do? How should I know? We can't even move if our fire's put out.
Then the doors of Thomas's shed began to rattle on their hinges. Oh, right. Those doors can't even move. They're just there for decoration of the, shed.
Wow, way to ruin the suspense, narrator. Yeah.
Then suddenly, they heard the loud clattering of crates being knocked over.
There it is!
The two engines were too frightened to speak. Out from behind the pile of fallen crates came what looked like a big hairy creature, with its eyes glowing in the night.
No, it can't be! It's the horrible engine-eating monster! Ah, no, get away from me, I'm too young and I'm not the guy, Thomas, I never thought I'd say this, but Yeah, can't you see that there's a monster right outside of our shed?
Not anymore. Now the monster is inside the shed.
The two engines opened their eyes very slowly.
A hedgehog? You were afraid of a tiny little hedgehog?
All the engines laughed, and Thomas laughed with them, but James, on the other hand, felt embarrassed.
Percy has a good imagination, but I think yours might be even better, Thomas.
I think you're right, Gordon. It's the only thing in the world that can turn a tiny hedgehog into a big, scary monster.